Okay, so here it is, the MSI GP66 Leopard 10UG. Yes, this is like their latest refresh for their GP series with RTX 30 series graphics card. Now, when they move on from the GP65 to GP66, that also means that they are changing the whole chassis and design of this particular model. This time, just like the GE76 and GE66, they are using the all-new chassis from the redesign. I would say they are practically just use back the same mold and design and remove some of the features that comes with the GE66 and just call this a GP66. Now, there's a lot of GP66 numbers going around, but today we're just going to focus on this GP66. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the design is all new and I really like this particular design. Number one is because of the stealthy look of this thing. Even the logo itself is like not very, how to say, outstanding compared to some others models that sometimes they light up the logos and everything else. And especially with this part of the protruding back here, it gives us some sort of modern look of it. It also helps with the, I'm not too sure, maybe it helps with the hinge stability and whatnot. Some of them do have a concern about how this thing is not flush against the rest of the laptop, but it really depends on how you carry this laptop in your bag. For a standard 15.6-inch laptop, this is not really a big model, I would say. And by the weight itself, it weighs at about 2.5 kilograms or maybe less than that. And if we just go around this particular chassis, at the back here we can see there are a lot of ventilations at the bottom chassis here for the twin fans to take in cool air. And even through the ventilation, you can see the heat pipes going around to cool down your CPU and GPU. Unfortunately, there is one thing I just want to complain is that this particular design is very tricky. It makes me believe that MSI somehow designed a different compartment door for you to easily access the RAM and SSD part, but in fact it is not. It is just some sort of cutout design. And not to mention, MSI still has this factory seal on their screw over here, so basically they are discouraging users from gaining access into it for users who upgrade the RAM and SSD and everything. And also, if you read other reviews online, they also mention about how difficult it is to pry open the bottom cover. From my personal experience, yeah, MSI laptops somehow they have a lot of plastic clips around the bottom chassis. I don't know why they choose to use a lot of plastic clips. A few of them is reasonable, but when you have more of them, when you start to pry open, even if you are using those plastic pryers or iFixit toolkit anyway, you will still have a difficult time to pry open, and especially when you have a lot of vents down here, that means you have a lot of weak points and there's a potential you break the bottom piece if you are somehow get rough and frustrated. MSI, do something about that. So again, if you're afraid of breaking your laptop and everything, I would suggest you to ask the shop when you purchase this laptop to straight away upgrade the RAM or SSD. Now, as for the input and output of this laptop, on the right hand side we got two USB Type-A port. On the left hand side, you got single USB Type-A and a 3.5mm audio combo jack. One thing I really like about this chassis is because most of the output is located at the back here. For example, this connector that looks almost like a USB port, but in fact, it is a proprietary charging connector. You have a charging port at the back here, HDMI port, the Ethernet port, and as well as a USB Type-C port that also supports USB PD charging. This is a very good design and I really hope that many other laptop manufacturers would take this as a reference and use it in their design as well. Opening the laptop, immediately what you can see here is the 15.6-inch 1080p Full HD display. There are a couple of different variants of display in the market for the GP66. For example, they also have a 240Hz option. But in Malaysia, I'm still not too sure if they are bringing in the 240Hz or not, because our review sample here comes with a 144Hz display. 144Hz is really good enough for all your daily needs, even for your work and gaming perspective as well. Now, here's the thing about 144Hz, because a lot of people they say that, oh, 144Hz is so yesteryear. Actually, it really depends on what kinds of games you are playing on this machine. So you have RTX 3070, and if you play AAA titles, sometimes those AAA titles have RTX, RT functions and everything, and you will still having some hard time to really push it beyond 100 frames. So really 240Hz is not really something I would recommend for AAA title gaming, unless you are those esport players that want to have the fastest and the most responsive display out there in the market. As for the keyboard, I really like how this keyboard layout it is. If you remember the old GP65, they actually have a numpad option over there. So personally, I don't really like numpad on laptops because it takes up the right hand side part, and then you have to shift the trackpad over to the left hand side. So it makes things a little bit clunky, and generally you have less typing space because you have to make way for the number pad. This time I really like how this whole layout it is. Everything is centered. One thing I don't like about this layout is the power button placement. It is placed at the top right corner over there, which is extremely close to backspace and delete insert button. On top of that, the spring is not exactly, they have different resistance level or what. It is basically the same. So if you touch type a lot, sometimes you might mispress it. So you probably have to adjust or change the settings to avoid the power button from doing anything from the single press over there. Now the trackpad, this one is just a standard non-ultra wide. The tracking surface is not glass, and to be honest, for a gaming laptop, I won't really emphasize much on the trackpad itself because most of the time you will bring a gaming mouse together with you. Now here's the part that you guys would be interested in, the performance of the GP66 Leopard 10UG. Our configuration comes with Intel Core i7-10870H. The GPU is RTX 3070, 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM, and 1TB of NVMe SSD. We actually compare this with our previously reviewed the Aorus 15G XC. That particular model comes with a 95W RTX 3070. So here's some very interesting results. In benchmarks, we are constantly getting about 15 to 20% better performance when it comes to the graphical benchmarks like the TimeSpy and the Firestrike. Even the Port Royal is getting very good results from there. Now, one thing I don't really understand is when it comes to the CPU performance, comparing with the Aorus 15G XC, both of these laptops, they share the same CPU, the Intel Core i7-10870H. For some reason, this MSI, the Intel Core i7, is getting higher score compared to the Aorus. Now, what I can really explain is probably through their BIOS setup and how they profile their CPU to run. Because from what we can observe from the temperature side, the Aorus is much more conservative when it comes to the temperature control. So I would assume probably MSI has a much more aggressive CPU profile that try to push the CPU even further. Now I do want to make a claim that we did all the tests with the MSI Dragon Center. We set to the maximum performance and turn on the game mode and everything. We just want to extract everything out of this laptop. Okay, again, we are back to the RTX 3070 situation with a different TGP going on, and definitely you can see the Aorus 15G has the same RTX 3070, but again, the GP66 also have RTX 3070, but somehow this one is performing way better compared to that particular model. And from what we have recorded using our hardware info logger, on average, this particular model can maintain at about 120 watt of the power rating for the GPU. Even crazy is that we managed to record the peak power consumption is at 180 watt. Of course, you won't expect this laptop to constantly take 180 watt for the GPU, and that definitely will destroy your laptop in the process. But that is some sort of spike in between the games and whatnot. Now, as for the battery life of this thing, the 65 watt hour battery that comes with this laptop, you can probably expect about 5 to 6 hours max of a use case. Definitely you would want to switch the profile into battery saving mode. Now, all in all, at the time of filming this review, I still haven't get the confirmation on the official price tag for the GP66 Leopard over here. So a few days after we recorded the review, we received the words that MSI Malaysia might not be carrying the GP66 Leopard 10UG into Malaysia. Our best guess is probably they want to get ready for 11th gen Intel Core processor. We don't know. But for those international users, you probably is interested to get this particular laptop. What we managed to find on new8.com is that the price starts from $1,699 US for the Intel Core i7-10750H and NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3070 laptop GPU. Of course, you can also opt for the higher end model, which comes with the Intel Core i7-10870H, as well as the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3080 laptop GPU. That will set you back for $2,449 US. I really like how this laptop, they decided to stick with one design language. All the port placement is amazing. Keyboard layout is nice. Of course, I still want to complain about their upgradability and everything else. Apart from that, I think 144Hz screen is decent for whatever you are gaming on this machine. And yeah, that pretty much is what I think about the new MSI GP66 Leopard 10UG. So do let me know what you guys think about this laptop. Is this kind of design that tickles your fancy or not? And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.